What's the one mistake in your opinion that you've witnessed leaders making more frequently than others?
Yeah, so I think the biggest conundrum, I would say, and you can get this wrong, is about how to basically empower people, right? I've seen the following failures, right? I've seen leaders that can't let go and they micromanage. What does micromanage do? Provided the leader is of any use, it may in the short term even yield certain results, but it hugely frustrates people and it certainly doesn't create organizational capacity, right? So it's really poor, right? I then often think people confuse with giving people the freedom with just letting things completely run uncontrolled. And if you let things run uncontrolled, the likelihood is people fail, and they fail uncontrollably, right? Which means they may not be easily able to recover from it. So the concept we actually have is what we call empowerment subject to guardrails. So it sounds like a mathematical function, but it is. We would go in and we would say, what are your OKRs? So we would align, we'd actually ask you, what do you think the OKRs should do? You then get the resources, the empowerment, but you have certain guardrails, right? So if you suddenly decide Tide is not the brand you like, you will call it XYZ. That's clearly a guardrail you can't step over, right? You will need to stay within, we're agile, we stay within sprints. So you have certain guardrails around that are fixed. If you want to change them, you can come to us with data and we will decide to change it. But fundamentally, these things are fixed. However, we passionately believe within these guardrails, you as the leader should be able to get on with it. Put your own stamp on things and let it run. So I think this is what I'm saying. This is to me the most important thing, getting what I call getting empowerment right, which is allowing people to learn, have the fun of actually being able to put your mark on something, but if you fail safely.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there the industry is changing fast. Your industry is changing incredibly fast, and I'm excited to see what the next few years will look like. But tell me, what do you think that the future holds in maybe 2 or 3 years' time? And secondly, what's going to be the challenges to hire and retain the best talent?
Yeah. So for us at Tide, in terms of the future is, we are experiencing enormous growth, right? We will want to sustain that, both here in the UK, we will go abroad, we will broaden the product proposition. So you want to put this back to what it means for our employees and our leaders. It means, we have to scale the organization, which means we need to, beyond the C-level, have a leadership group that's much, much broader. And we're really working hard at attracting the greatest talent there and to allowing people within the organization to grow. Within it, we need to find the right balances of structures that are necessary when we have hundreds of people, right? But without wanting to become bureaucratic. So it's really about retaining as much as possible of the culture that we have, developing sensible structures and processes and leadership groups, to basically make sure we can be as much of the Tide that we are today when we are 5 to 10 times the size.
Fantastic. What final question is, if you had your time again and were giving your 20-year-old self advice, what's the one thing that you would now say to yourself?
What I would do differently, or
it doesn't have to be different. It could just be, looking back now. What's the one thing that you might tell yourself? So I think the
fundamental thing that I've learned about 10 years ago is about work-life balance. So when I started, and gray hair is not quite there, but it is work-life balance was wrong, right? And work-life balance where people were working too hard, right? And also in work-life balance, when you work, you have to have fun. And so I tried to combine this, and that's actually one of the reasons why I left traditional banking. I said, I need to find the right work-life balance. I probably work the same hours now, but I'm having a lot more fun. So whatever you do is make sure you have the balance that works for you, and make sure when you spend time at work, and most of our jobs will involve a lot of working time, is make sure you fundamentally enjoy it. Otherwise, life is too short. Even though we're all getting older, life is just too short for it.
I couldn't agree more with that. Oliver, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. What's the best way if people want to connect with you, find out more about Tide? How can they do that?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is I'm always happy for people to connect with me on LinkedIn. One of the privilege of running a place like Tide is that we have a lot of inbound traffic. So I cannot do that, but by all means do reach out. Otherwise, we do have a lot of leaders in the business that can be found on LinkedIn. they would all be happy for people to connect. There's a lot of information on Tide. And I would definitely encourage anyone, in particular in the product or tech universe, to just speculatively reach out to us. I mean, we have a lot of really, really exciting positions running. And we're always grateful for people to contact us.
Fantastic. And if you are connecting with Oliver, I'd just suggest that if you're listening to this, do personalize your LinkedIn connection. Tell him you heard his podcast. Tell him you heard the show, and perhaps he'll get in touch with you. Thanks, Oliver, for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem.